It's now the middle of May, and temperatures are warming up, and we can expect longer days, and this is like the happy zone for tomatoes. The timing of planting tomatoes is really important, and I usually aim for middle of May, but if we have some really great consistent warm temperatures in early May, you might plant a little bit early. If it's like rainy and dismal, you would probably want to wait until later May. But at a certain point, we stick them in the ground because they got a long way to go. So one really interesting thing about tomatoes in particular is that they have this tendency they love to make roots. And if you actually bury part of the stem, all these little hairs along the stem have the potential to develop into roots. And so by planting tomatoes extra deep, we can actually encourage a much stronger, more robust root system, which will in turn give us a more resilient and a more productive plant. And I mean, for instance, this guy, is going to benefit from a little bit deeper planting. So we're going to remove the lowest branches on each of these so that we don't have leaves that are going to rot underneath the surface. And then we're just going to hope that we get nice, good root development all along the stem. So there's lots of different ways to support tomatoes, and they will definitely need support, because if you just let them go, they're going to grow up, to a certain point, and then they're just going to kind of fall over. And I think the most important thing is that it's big enough to support a really vigorous tomato, and you definitely want to put that support on fairly early in the life of the plant. It's a lot harder to do once you have this big bushy plant. So there's lots of potential afflictions that tomatoes can have. In this climate, I don't find as many pests, although knock on wood, but fungal disease is definitely a common thing. And so we can take some really easy and important steps to prevent the spread of fungal diseases. The first is making sure to water just at the base of the plant and not water the foliage. Also best to water early in the day instead of later in the evening. And then also just maintaining proper spacing. People plant tomatoes too close together and you're not going to have as good airflow between plants. So I generally give them a full kind of 2 foot from each other spacing. And then as the plant grows, you can actually cut out these bottom branches that are very close to the ground so that you don't have any tomato leaves that are actually touching the ground. So when the tomatoes have fruit, we start to cut back water, and reducing water will actually provide a little bit of stress to the plant, and it'll keep you from having kind of mealy fruits. Also, if tomatoes get a deep watering right when they're about to fruit, sometimes that's when you'll get cracking. And so when we get to a ripe fruit that we're ready to harvest, I often will stop watering tomatoes completely, and that'll promote the production and ripening of the fruit. Voila, tomates!